If you're in your first trimester of pregnancy, you are probably feeling so many things right now, including probably excited for this new person you're bringing into your life, maybe overwhelmed by all these decisions you have to make about doctors and hospitals and home birth versus, I don't know, all the options, as well as probably nervous or maybe stressed out about the responsibility of all of this, or confused or conflicted about when to tell people or whether or not you should be riding. And on top of all of that, you're also probably feeling bloated and nauseous. And then if you're watching this video, you probably are also a horse person, and that brings on its whole, its own whole slew of things to work through and to figure out. So my hope for this video is to help you start the process of figuring out some of that stuff for you. I'm going to share a little bit about my experience with my first trimester and hopefully help kind of get you started on the right path for you that makes you feel good. So first of all, as you can see, I am not totally ready for the day yet. I got trapped under a sleeping baby, which, if this isn't something that you have experienced yet, you will soon. It's so sweet and lovely, and of course you don't want to wake up the sleeping baby and everything's perfect and snuggly and lovely, and also it means that you're trapped and stuck for a little while. So bear with me as I decided to kind of use this time to share a little bit. So I actually was surprised to find out that I was pregnant. I was planning on having kids, but her timing was a little bit different than the timing that we had initially thought about. And for me, part of that conflict in the very beginning was like, of course, I was so excited because I've always wanted kids and I was really looking forward to it. And also, I was not sure how pregnancy fit into horses. And as a mom and equestrian now, I'm still kind of trying to figure that out on a day-to-day basis. But then I was mostly obviously an equestrian and wasn't really sure yet how to make it all work. So I had a lot of big questions, and here I'm going to answer kind of the top 3 initial questions that I came up with, and just share a little bit about my experience with those things. So the first question that I struggled with was surrounding morning sickness, which is not something that affects all pregnant people. However, it is something that affects a lot of pregnant people. I actually didn't have it that badly, which is surprising because I'm not someone who can do like roller coasters or even car rides. Like, I get motion sick really easily. So I thought that I would probably also have worse morning sickness, but I really didn't. However, it's so challenging because especially as an active person, you need to eat a lot on a regular basis. And then you also want to make sure that you're getting good nutrition for this person that you're growing, because you're providing all of their food as well. And so, it's hard when you're also just really nauseous and don't feel like eating anything. So I was actually really pleasantly surprised to learn that during this particular stage of pregnancy, the baby actually has pretty much all that they need already, just from what's already in your body. So while it's best if you can get more nutrition, you're not going to do any damage if, like me, you only eat butter noodles for 3 months. That was the thing that butter noodles and fruit were like the 2 things that I could really stomach. And that was what I lived on for quite a while. I did, however, add a really high quality food-based multivitamin and prenatal vitamin. I'm not affiliated with them anyway, but I'll link them in the description just in case that's something that somebody's interested in. But I did add that just to know that I was getting all of my nutrition needs met for myself and my growing baby. In terms of kind of coping with nausea, I actually found that the days that I was at the barn, that I was like outside and I was distracted and I was with the horses, those days were actually more manageable than the days that I was like resting. Even though I was so tired all the time and all I wanted to do was sleep, when I stopped moving, I felt the morning sickness worse. So that was something in my experience that I found that the more I kind of pushed through the tiredness, the better my stomach felt. And so I don't know, that might be helpful for some of you with horses. But I did find that those seasickness wristbands really helped a lot, and I just made a habit of wearing those every day. Just before I even got out of bed in the morning, I would put those on. And then I also made a habit of trying to eat something with some protein before I even got out of bed. And that was really hard actually, because most things with protein didn't sound appetizing, especially first thing in the morning. But I found that just like some like really salty nuts was an easy thing. And Ty used to make so much fun of me because he said it was like he was sleeping next to a squirrel, because I would like, every time I woke up in the night, I would just like munch on a couple of nuts, which is not the like quietest snack to have in bed, but it did really help to kind of keep a little bit of protein in my stomach throughout the night and before I got out of bed in the morning. And then hydration, just the more water I could drink, the better. And then the other thing that I found really helpful were those little ginger candies, and I would just keep them in my pocket. And sometimes kids in lessons would like ask me what it was, and I'd be like, oh, it's just a vitamin, because I didn't want to like alert the parents to the fact that I was eating ginger candies, because I thought maybe they would know what that meant. But this was before people knew. And but yeah, I would just kind of keep those in my pocket and munch on those throughout the day, and that really helped as well. So kind of to sum that up, hydration, ginger candies, eating a little something in the night if you can, and then those wristbands, along with just distraction and keeping busy, were really all the best things that I found for morning sickness. And that seems pretty consistent with other people's experiences. So I would definitely, if you're struggling with morning sickness, I would give those a try, and let me know in the comments if I missed anything that works for you, or that you've heard of that maybe will help somebody else, because I might have, things that work for me might not necessarily be what works for everyone. So the second thing was the first thing on my mind when I found out I was pregnant, and may also be at top of your mind, and that was, is it safe to ride? And while there are many, many, many opinions about this out there, what I kind of kept hearing from my health professionals and people in my circle was, trust your body and you will know when it's time to stop, which like the type A person in me was like, that's not a good answer. I need to know like an exact date that I need to stop riding. However, I did find that was actually really true. The general consensus, and again, I'm not a healthcare professional, so do ask your doctor about this, or whoever you're going to for healthcare, and make your own decisions here. But the general consensus in my experience is that while the baby is small enough that it's still in your pelvic bowl, the baby is pretty well protected. And barring any major injuries, which of course are always a possibility with horses, so we have to be so careful, the risk is very minimal when the baby is inside the pelvic bowl. Once your belly starts to show and the baby comes out of the pelvic bowl, that's then when the risk becomes higher. And also for me, that was when my balance started to change. That was when it got harder to get on and off of a horse, was when my belly started to pop out. My breeches didn't fit as well. There was round ligament pain, which is a whole other can of worms. And also relaxin starts to cause your pelvis to open up, which for those of us that ride, we know our pelvis and pelvic floor strength are really important to our ability to ride well. And I found as my pregnancy went on that my pelvis felt less and less stable. And I've actually had a lot of hip pain post pregnancy. And while I don't know for sure, one theory that was brought up to me is that potentially because of all that relaxin, my pelvis is out of alignment and I need to maybe look at pelvic floor therapy. So, just to kind of throw all that out there, there are many, many factors that go into considering whether riding is safe or something that you would like to continue to do while you're pregnant. There are people that stop the day they get pregnant. There are people that ride all the way through the day that they give birth. And I think it's really a conversation between you and your healthcare provider. However, I do want to debunk the myth that jostling and exercise are bad for pregnancy. There's been a lot of research that shows that exercise is actually really good for pregnancy and labor outcomes. And so exercise alone is not something that we want to stop doing, and is not a reason, stopping exercise is not a reason to stop riding. Also, the jostling thing, I've heard that before, but it's been proven pretty soundly scientifically at this point that it's safe to run and jog and hike and things like that. And if it's safe to do those things, as long as you're a fairly decent rider, presumably we're not jostling any more than a runner is. And so that's not a valid argument either. I think the really valid arguments that you need to think about are your baby's safety, meaning if you were to fall or like God forbid get kicked or whatever else, think about your baby's safety, and then your long-term health and safety. So your balance, your pelvic alignment, your stamina in the saddle. So those are all of the factors that you really need to think about. Also, I think it's valid to consider all of the other activities that we do with our horses on a regular basis. So carrying heavy things like feed is typically a no-no. There's some varying opinions about how much you can lift. Some people say just cut your max load by 40%. So if you were able, just for simple math, if you were able to carry 100 pounds before, which is a bale of hay, in most places a 3-string bale, you would only want to max out at 60 pounds. However, I will tell you, your round ligaments in many cases will tell you when you're lifting too much. I found anything over like 20 pounds was so painful for my round ligaments that I didn't lift anything heavier than 20 pounds for my entire pregnancy pretty much. So that's something to think about. And then the other thing is, like, anything that's a lift and twist motion is really bad for your abdominal separation. Some level of abdominal separation is normal during pregnancy, but you really want to be careful not to do any damage to your abs. Otherwise, it makes it really hard for them to come back together, also known as diastasis recti. And anything that's a lift and twist motion can be really bad for that abdominal separation. So this is your excuse not to muck any stalls for the time that you're pregnant. Also, like lifting a heavy saddle and twisting to put it on the shelf or on the saddle rack, not a good idea. You're going to want to lift and then turn your whole body and then put it on the saddle rack. I did do some light mucking when I was pregnant, and I just was really careful to like keep the pitchfork in front of my body. So I would pick up the pile and then I would turn to face the wheelbarrow and dump, instead of kind of the normal like scoop and twist. And I just was really careful to like keep the pitchfork in front of my body. So I would pick up the pile and then I would turn to face the wheelbarrow and dump, instead of kind of the normal like scoop and twist. So those are things to kind of think about as well. The other activities that come with having horses that may pose a safety risk for your baby or a health risk for you. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about in this video, because we're getting a little long here, is when to tell people. So I actually told people a little earlier than most people do. I chose to tell people around 10 weeks, and there were a lot of reasons for that. One reason is that I had a low-risk pregnancy, and the main reason that you tell people at 12 weeks is because you kind of leave the high-risk zone of your pregnancy. I wasn't really worried about that. I had a very low risk, and I don't have a history of miscarriage in my family or in my own history, and so I was really not concerned about about that piece for myself. And I was, you know, under the care of a healthcare provider at that time and all those things. Also, I felt like if I have a really low risk pregnancy and I lose the pregnancy, I would want people to know. I would want people to know why I was sad and grieving. And so that felt important to me. And then the other piece was I wanted my clients to know why I had been so tired. I had a couple of clients, one client in particular, when I told her that I was pregnant, she was like, oh my gosh, I just thought you'd been partying really hard and you were hungover for the last 3 months. Like she was really wondering why I looked so tired all the time. So I really felt like I wanted my clients to know why I was not acting like myself. And then the other piece was I wanted people to know why I wasn't working with high risk horses. So I made the decision really early on not to work with any horses anymore that were a safety concern for any reason, which is hard for a horse trainer because those are the horses we get, right? Like we don't have the safe horses in general. And so that was a hard decision to not do that anymore. And I wanted people to know why. So I did feel like it was important to tell people. I made the decision to tell my family and friends first, and then to tell my clients. And then I actually posted a pregnancy announcement after that to kind of get all of the people in slightly wider circles. But I felt like it was really important that my friends and family and that my clients heard it directly from me, and not from social media. So that was kind of my decision-making process. But again, like, I think the common theme with all three of these things is what works for me may not work for you. There's no prescription here, and it's really just a matter of trusting yourself, trusting your instincts, and really thinking through safety and your well-being. So lots of things to think about there. Stay tuned for more videos. I'm going to be working through my other trimester experiences as well as postpartum and early motherhood experiences. I'm also going to be working on some more tutorial type videos for pregnant equestrians and new mom equestrians. And then of course this amazing interview series that has already begun that I'm so excited to be sharing with you, the stories from other mamas like us, because, you know, I think just community is so important here. So if you're interested in any or all of that, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you'll get all of the updates as these things become available. And then also check out all of the descriptions below so that we can make sure that, you know, I can get the resources to you that you're interested in. And I will see you in the next video.